Generosity. We've been talking about it, and this is the third talk about it. Maybe you've been here for all of them, maybe you haven't. You may be pleased to know that this is the last talk in the series. We're not going to be talking about generosity. Let's look at today's passage in a little more detail. The story is actually told in all three of the synoptic gospels. Now, the synoptic gospels are Matthew, Mark, and Luke. They're called synoptic because they tell the same stories in very much the same way. But they're not identical, so we can learn a little bit from the other gospels. Matthew uses a word to describe this young man that tells us he's actually in his 20s. Mark tells us that Jesus looked at the man and loved him. But the man still walks away. The passage starts with the young man coming to Jesus. In Mark's gospel, he actually runs up to Jesus and falls down on his knees. Now that's very strange behavior by the standards of the time. He calls Jesus good teacher. Now, did you ever go down on your knees before your teacher? No? I didn't. It appears the young man is desperate. By the standards of the world, he's got everything. He's young, he's rich. But he knows he's missing something. So he comes to Jesus to ask his advice. And he's desperate. Now, the young man knows what the other teachers say. He knows what he's meant to do. And all these religious people tell him what he should do. And Jesus doesn't bother asking the young man if he knows what the rules are. He says that the young man knows the rules in verse 20. And the young man says that he's kept all the rules since he was even younger. He's not boasting, because this is where in is it Mark's gospel that, or Matthew's gospel, that Jesus says he looked at the man and loved him. This man was serious about keeping the rules. But it goes wrong here. Jesus tells him to sell everything and give it to the poor. And the young man can't. He goes away sad. But did you notice? Jesus doesn't quote all 10 of the commandments. He apparently uses a form that was in common use. But it misses some of the commandments. If we look at the 10 commandments, we can see that Jesus only quotes, look at the first commandment. You shall have no other gods but me. In its full form, it continues, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength. That's the problem. The young man doesn't love God with all his heart, soul, mind, and strength. He loves his money. That distracts him from God. And by telling the young man to sell everything that he has and give it to the poor, Jesus makes this clear. It's not the money that's the problem. It's that the young man loves it too much. Now, you've probably heard the quote, money is the root of all evil. You may be aware that it's actually a misquote. The original is from 1 Timothy 6, chapter 6, verse 10. Now, it's an excellent book. I commend it to you. And not just because it's named after me, or am I named after it? Anyway, For the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil. Some people eager for money have wandered from the faith and pierced themselves with many griefs. And that's what's going on here. It's not that the young man having a lot of money is the problem. It's that he loves it too much. And it's taking him away from Jesus. And that's where generosity comes in. What if the young man had been generous with his money, giving it to people who needed it? Well, no one is told what might have happened. But the young man would have probably responded differently to Jesus. The habit of generosity would have broken the bonds tying him to his money. He would have been free to give, free to follow Jesus. Jesus might not even have had to ask him to give all his money away. Now, what about us? About you and me? Do we have the freedom that comes with generosity? The freedom that comes from holding on lightly to our possessions, to our time and even our money? Or are we so busy holding on to what we've got that we miss what God is asking us to do? That we miss his blessings? You know that phrase, put your money where your mouth is. Presumably you call yourself a Christian, a follower of Jesus. That's what your mouth says. But what does what you do with your money say? What does what you do with your time say? Now, it's not to say you have to give away everything, not unless Jesus actually tells you to. I'm certainly not telling you that. But are you being generous with your time and money? Or are you letting it get in the way of what God is trying to do in you? Is your money where your mouth is?